Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Wonderful to be together in this virtual space and to look ahead to a wonderful Shabbat, Youth Shabbat at our Bayit, celebration of our graduating senior youth leaders, all our youth leaders and all our children, and the celebration of our Bayit, culminating a little over a week with Chovevei and Maharat Smicha graduation ceremonies, graduations across our educational institutions. It's a time of appreciating what we've accomplished and looking to what's ahead. And I'm thinking about that in light of the journey that this Shabbat's parashat Shlach Lecha here in Chutz La'aretz, reminds us that we've already traversed. Shlach, or as it's alternately called, Shlach Lecha, is the only one of two parashiot whose names incorporate an imperative followed by a lecha. Shlach Lecha, send forth yourself or for yourself, and of course, Lech Lecha, journeying all the way back to God's command to Avram, go for yourself, go you on this journey. It gives us a moment to pause and think about the journey that started with Avram and now has a mature or maturing nation getting ready to go forth on its ultimate journey, actually the same one Avram traversed in a certain way to the land of Canaan. What are the differences between the moment of Lech Lecha, God's command to Avram, and Shlach Lecha, God's instruction to Moshe to be carried out with the rest of Bnei Yisrael, sending out the scouts to prepare for the journey to the land? One is simply numerical and historical. Instead of a communication between God and one person, God now speaks to an intermediary who is the leader of a whole nation. That development in and of itself is a remarkable achievement. The passage of time, the multiple covenants, and the emergence of a committed nation, even with all its complexities. There's a second one that the rabbis and the classic rabbinic view of this journey helps us understand, which is that Avram's was a moment of great commandedness. But the way Rashi, based on the version of the story of the scouts as Moshe recounts it in Devarim, Rashi helps us imagine, actually the Shlach Lecha of our parasha looks much different. According to Rashi, the Shlach Lecha is Im Tirtzu, if you wish. Ani eini mitzaveh lecha, says God. I'm actually not commanding you when I say Shlach Lecha. Lecha means midatcha, if you want to. Choose to send these scouts if you wish. In some way, even though of course we're so deeply bound in this moment by so many of God's commands, there's also a profound realm of discretion that alongside all the things God is telling us to do, commanding us to do from Avraham and on forward, now there is a profound realm of choice of the things which we need to decide as a maturing, responsible nation with a leader and beyond that leader, a God, about how we want to journey forward to our own destiny. And so in that sense, it's a journey from the early stage of straight commandedness to the realm of discretion. But of course, it's much more complicated, because that version in our parasha, which Rashi bases himself on, commenting that Shlach Lecha means L'datcha, if you choose, if you wish, because of the fact that the version in Devarim says that the Jewish people asked Moshe to send scouts, and Moshe turned to God, and God said, do it if you want to, but I'm not commanding you, doesn't seem to be the plain sense of the version in our parasha. In our parasha, it just says Shlach Lecha. It sounds like a pure command from God, just like God's command to Avram. And it's more complicated in the case of Avram too. The Sfat Emet and so many others, all the way back in Lech Lecha, tell us, yes, it was a command, but it was a command that came from the fact that Avram chose to plug in to the frequency on which God was communicating. And only after Avram's choice, discovery of God, and commitment to God, did he then willingly subject himself to the commands that come from God. And so there really are two versions of the story. The story in which we go from a relationship of straight commandedness to one of choice and more discretion. Yes, there are still so many mitzvot, but there's also somehow more of our own voice, more of our own will as a more sophisticated nation engaging in Torah and mitzvot. Lo b'shamayim hi. We carry forth so many of the mandates through our own lens, our own interpretive tradition, our own understanding. And then there's the version that says, actually, there's been no change from Avram until today. Every moment of mitzvah and every moment of choice is a balance of that dynamic of how we want to live our lives and how we receive the commanding voice of God, which echoes to us today just as it did to Avram then. Both are true. Let it be a Shabbat of reflecting on the way we grow and mature to exercise choice and the way we grow and mature to feel boundedness, bondedness, and commandedness. And that all of that is both represented in that twinning of the straightforward imperative and the moment of Lecha, starting out at Lech Lecha and going forward to Shlach Lecha. Shabbat Shalom.